In this video, I'd like to demonstrate the difference between changing the source of an existing image element in HTML and using JavaScript versus creating a whole new image element and adding it to the page, or sort of an image element that didn't exist. So the code for this, it's all zipped up because there are the images, which are just a deck of cards, images of a deck of cards, can be found at this URL. Okay, so just here I am in Visual Studio Code. Here are the image files, and they're next to this HTML. So when I'm referring to the image files, I'm just going to use the name of the file. And that makes sense because they are siblings in my file structure here. Okay, so let me run this page for you. And I start off with, at the top, I have, this is the example where the file exists, and I have a bunch of different card images. So I'm just going to keep changing the card image, and there are sort of 52 of them. And then when I get to 53, I cycle back to 1. But that's what that does. So this is the example of the existing image file, and I'm just changing the source attribute to a new file. Down here, there's a div, but it's empty. And then I'm going to make a whole new image element and then append it to the div. And then I am making, each time I make one, I'm making a new image and adding it to the, okay, so that's what this does. Okay, I have a little styling of the images so that they're not too big, not too small. A little bit of a margin at the top so they're not completely on top of one another. I'm keeping track. N is sort of which card I'm on. And so I have 2 of them. So I have this header, this H2, this header 2. And then I have a little span region within the header to display a number. And I'm already displaying card 1. So the first card, when I'm changing the image, will be card 2. Whereas down here, when I'm adding cards, I don't have any to begin with. So I'm starting with 1. And each of these things has a button. The first button calls a function I'll call change. The second one, a function I'll call make new. And then this has a div with the one card, which has an ID. And then I'm just changing the source of it. Whereas in the second one, I just have the empty div. So here I have a div and an image, and the image gets the ID because that's what I'm changing. Down here, I have a div with nothing in it. And so it's the div that gets the ID because I'm changing the contents of the div. Here's my script. I have 2 global variables for my counters, num1 and num2. So again, in the top one, I start with a 2 because I already have card 1 is already in place, whereas num2 starts at a value of 1. I don't have any cards, and I'll start the first one. And these cards that I found somewhere years ago were numbered 1 through 52, so they don't start at 0. Okay, these I have declared at this script level, not inside a function, or what I would tend to call a global level, because I want that number to be remembered from click to click. So I'm going to click a button, and so I don't want to declare these numbers in that function, because then they will be it'll be a whole new variable each time. I want the number to be remembered, and as I increment it, to remember its current value from click to click. And the same thing for both of them. So they're both declared here at this level. Here is the function that changes the source. And so there was the image had an ID of image card, img card. I am going to the page, finding that element and changing its source property, And these files were all named cards, some number and GIF. So I'm just sort of concatenating that together. I'm incrementing my number, and then if it gets to be 53, I'm setting it back to 1. And I'm also displaying the new number on my page. So that was the top one, changing the source of the existing image element. Down here in the second function, make new, I am using the create element method. So document create element, and I am creating an image element, img. So this should be some existing type of element in standard HTML element. Image is one of them. So I'm creating an image element. I decide what properties I want to set. I'm setting the source property to, again, this concatenation of cards plus a number, num2 in this case, plus .gif. Incrementing that number. If the number gets to be 53, set it back to 1. And then here I am setting that number, displaying that number on the page. And then here is the append child. So I only set the source property of this newly created image, but I did have some styling of it in my style section up here, setting a height of the image. So I can control other properties other than the source, but I try to keep it simple. I can give it an ID if I want to refer to it later. I'm just going to have the card sort of pile up, so I'm not doing anything to them later, so I didn't give them ID. But I could give them an ID. I could give them other style properties, borders, what have you. I should probably give them an alt, but I kept it very simple and just set the source property. And then here I am. I have my container, the div that I gave an ID of div deck to, and I'm appending the child, which was the image element. And that's what I wanted to show you. Again, just this, have an image and change its source, or create a whole new image that wasn't on the page and add it to and change any of the properties you want to, and then add it to the page. So just two approaches, somewhat similar, but make that distinction that might be important for a beginner to see. Thanks. That's what thanks for your attention.